What if the person who knew you best was also the one who resented you most? For Daniel and Leon, brotherhood became a battlefield the moment their father chose sides. Two boys born under the same roof, raised by the same hands, yet destined to become strangers. Their story begins not with hatred but with something far more insidious: a father's uneven gaze. In the sprawling estate where they grew up, Daniel became the center of their father's universe. Each evening, he would sit at his father's right hand, absorbing lessons on business and legacy while being molded into the perfect heir. Meanwhile, Leon learned to live in the periphery, watching from shadows as his brother basked in their father's golden approval. The pattern was relentless. When Leon brought home an A-, his father's lips would tighten with disappointment. When he won second place, his father would coldly inquire about who had taken first. Christmas told their story in a single moment. Daniel receiving a premium leather briefcase with gold-embossed initials, while Leon unwrapped a department store wallet. These weren't just preferences, they were prophecies carved into Leon's heart. Their childhood bedrooms stood as physical manifestations of their father's divided love. Daniel's space glowed with polished trophies catching sunlight, framed certificates hanging like declarations of worth. Leon's room breathed rebellion, the walls vibrating with posters of musicians his father despised, shelves lined with books about rule breakers who rewrote the rules. Two rooms under one roof, yet worlds apart in their father's estimation. Daniel internalized responsibility as his identity, his shoulders gradually bending under the weight of expectations. His own dreams, architecture, if anyone had bothered to ask, were carefully folded away like childhood clothes outgrown. His sacrifices accumulated, broken engagements when his father mentioned distractions, holidays spent reviewing reports, 80-hour work weeks. His apartment remained a sterile way station between meetings rather than a home. For Leon, rejection transformed into propulsion. At 18, he left with only a duffel bag and his father's parting prediction: "You'll be back when you fail." Like a sapling growing toward light through concrete, Leon worked 3 jobs, saved every penny, and built conviction from scratch. Each achievement became a message sent home, each setback endured in private, teeth clenched against the possibility of his father's words coming true. Two brothers, like plants in the same garden, one carefully tended, the other left to weather storms alone. What began as divergent paths created men who barely recognized each other as family. At rare gatherings, they spoke in clipped tones of business acquaintances. Childhood brotherhood evaporated. Daniel viewed Leon's success with suspicion, an implicit critique of the traditional path he'd followed. Leon saw in Daniel only his father's puppet, incapable of independent thought. Their responses to childhood favoritism transformed them into perfect opposites. Daniel defined by duty, controlled, methodical, sacrificing happiness for obligation. Leon defined by defiance, innovative, impulsive, creating success specifically to invalidate his father's judgment, one fulfilling expectations, the other shattering them, both equally trapped in the shadow of their father's influence. Now, as their father's health declines, old wounds resurface. The reluctant phone calls summoning them home, the weighted silences in hospital corridors. The childhood battlefield is about to become a war zone, with their father's legacy as both prize and weapon. The hospital corridors had become a second home, but they never softened into comfort. As the family lawyer unfolded the crisp pages of their father's will, the air in the room grew thick with tension. Daniel sat rigidly in a leather chair, while Leon stood by the window, arms crossed. Neither brother was prepared for what followed, a clinical dismantling of their already fractured relationship, executed through the precision of legal language. The lawyer's voice cut through the silence as he listed the crown jewels of their father's empire. Daniel's face remained impassive while Leon's jaw tightened visibly with each pronouncement. His name appeared only at the end, their grandfather's watch and a trust fund that amounted to mere pennies compared to what Daniel now controlled. Leon's knuckles whitened as he gripped the windowsill. The silence that followed vibrated with decades of resentment crystallized into cold fact. Their father had made his final judgment. erasing Leon from the family legacy entirely.
This can't be legal.
Leon's voice was dangerously low as he confronted Daniel in their father's office 3 days later. His fingers trembled as he threw down a folder of documents.
43% of German family businesses face transition challenges. But this isn't a transition challenge. It's a goddamn coup.
Daniel's eyes flicked up momentarily from his paperwork, then back down. It's perfectly legal. Father built this company. He decided who should run it.
I'm entitled to my share. Leon's palm crashed onto the desk, scattering papers. Something flickered across Daniel's face. Fear, satisfaction, run it, fine. Own every piece of it, that's different.
Your share? The business you abandoned? The legacy you rejected? I gave 20 years to this company while you chased your dreams elsewhere. This isn't about fairness, Leon, it's about commitment. In their battle, neither acknowledged the truth. This wasn't about Reynolds Industries. The inheritance had become the battlefield where their childhood war would reach its conclusion. Money merely symbolized what both had always fought for, their father's love and approval. Each night, Daniel sat alone in their father's study, his apparent victory hollow under the weight of impossible expectations. Your father had specific instructions. Each directive formed another bar in Daniel's cage, constructed by a man controlling him even from beyond the grave. Meanwhile, Leon orchestrated his counterattack. A lawsuit challenging the will, whispered conversations with key clients, executives with ties to Leon suddenly resigning, only to reappear at competitor firms days later. He's systematically dismantling everything, not just fighting for a share, he wants to burn it all down if he can't have it. Daniel confided to his assistant after discovering leaked financial projections. Strange patterns began emerging in the company records, a detail both brothers initially overlooked in their fury. Daniel blocked Leon's parking space with construction equipment. Leon had Daniel's industry gala invitation revoked. Both performed their destructive roles perfectly, following scripts written since childhood. 6 weeks into their war, Daniel discovered unusual offshore transfers while reviewing quarterly financials. A complex network of shell companies receiving payments for decades. The same week, Leon found similar irregularities while gathering ammunition for his lawsuit. Unexplained income, partnerships with paper entities, consultancy fees to untraceable individuals. The inheritance they were destroying each other over suddenly raised disturbing questions. What had their father been hiding beneath his veneer of respectability? And was his decision to leave everything to Daniel not favoritism at all, but something far more calculated? Beyond the ledgers and offshore accounts lay a truth neither brother was prepared to face. As Daniel and Leon sat across from each other in their father's study, the scattered financial documents between them told a story that contradicted everything they had ever believed about the man who raised them. Their shared blood now carried the weight of secrets neither was sure they wanted to uncover, yet the evidence had become too damning to ignore. Look at this. These signatures from 15 years ago, it's his handwriting, meticulous, controlled, and fundamentally deceptive. The leather chair creaked beneath him as he shifted, reaching for another folder. What began as separate investigations, Leon examining historical partnerships, Daniel reviewing recent transactions, had converged into a shared, horrifying discovery. The mutual distrust that initially drove them to work independently dissolved with each new revelation. The air in the study felt suddenly thin, suffocating with decades of deception.
These companies in the Cayman Islands, they all trace back to him. Every property acquisition, every major investment, all facades for fraudulent schemes.
Sunday mornings he'd lecture me about integrity, while signing these same documents authorizing partnerships with known criminals. I don't know who I am anymore. Every choice I've made was to honor a man who never existed.
We need to come clean, all of it. People deserve the truth.
And destroy everything? Innocent people depend on Reynolds Industries, employees, partners, their families. Their conflicting reactions echoed lifelong patterns, Daniel protecting the family name, Leon demanding transparency. Yet beneath their opposing positions lay identical betrayal.
Daniel, look at the timing. Father changed his will right when you found those first transfers.
And his health declined exactly when you started examining historical partnerships.
He knew we were getting close. The inheritance, the Eastern expansion, the Matthews contract, all designed to keep us distracted, fighting each other instead of looking at him.
The implications cut deep. Daniel wasn't the favorite, he was the controllable one. Leon wasn't pushed away out of disappointment, he was kept distant because he asked too many questions. Their entire relationship as brothers had been manipulated to maintain their father's secrets. Most devastating was understanding that their cherished childhood memories, the lessons about responsibility, the demands for perfection, the apparent moral authority, were calculated performances. Everything they believed about themselves, shaped by their father's guidance, now stood revealed as carefully constructed lies designed to conceal decades of crime. As Daniel and Leon stand amid the wreckage of their father's deceptions, the boardroom that once symbolized their battlefield now feels like neutral ground. What happens now?
We were both pawns in his game all along.
Something shifts between them, fragile and tentative. They've spent years as rivals instead of allies. Perhaps our real inheritance isn't this company but the chance to rewrite our story. What would we have been if we'd known the truth from the beginning? And that's the end of this incredible journey. Thank you for sticking with us through every twist, turn, and revelation. Your time and support mean the world to us. But the stories don't stop here. If you love thrilling, suspenseful, and captivating tales, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next gripping story. Got thoughts on this story? Drop a comment below, we'd love to hear what you think. Until next time, stay curious, stay intrigued, and we'll see you in the next one. Subscribe now and get ready for the next unforgettable story.